Hello, Milton Guy here, coming at a subject we're all familiar with, politics and religion and you name it, we've a little bit of it all. But of course, I want to talk today about what's going on. First, I want to speak to the ruling that the Supreme Court, and I use that term lightly, the Supreme Court. I'm going to tell you, I'll put it this way. If the roles were reversed, Donald Trump was the president and Biden was the challenger. If the roles were reversed right now after the ruling of yesterday, Biden might have already been assassinated. You say that's harsh? You listen to what Donald Trump says. And yeah, I believe that there's a grave possibility that that would be the case. Of course, Joe Biden would never do that, but nobody rolls over in their grave. That's, you've heard that all your life. Well, I bet my granddaddy is rolling over in his grave. Nobody rolls over in their grave. We all know that. But if it were possible, the founding fathers of this country would be causing such a rollover that it would create an earthquake in several different places in this country. It is a shame and a disgrace that they did it, and it's a shame and disgrace if you're out there and you accept this as something good, because it could very well be the beginning of the end. It is the end until it's over, until we can get rid of it, of this nation as we have known it. And you can say, that's bull. Yeah. Well, you know what? On January the 5th of 2020, if anybody would have said to me that they were going to attack the Capitol on January the 6th, I said, that's never going to happen. And it happened. And I could go back and think about a lot of things that we would have, made that kind of remark that, that's never going to happen. And then it happened. I'm beginning to start beginning to think that I need to say every time our country is spinning, not out of control, but spinning to an extent that we do not know where we are, what we're doing, and we certainly do not know where we're going. Until people open their eyes and start looking at the past, present, and the possible future of Donald Trump and the capabilities of this man, then we're going to continue on this path until this country is no more. That can't happen. Yeah. I go back thinking back after my mind began to spin as I heard that ruling yesterday. And I thought about hearing shouts during the 2016 presidential election, such as in the crowds that Donald Trump drew. Shouts of grab some, you know what I'm saying, PUSS. And that didn't happen just once. That was kind of a regular thing at some of his rallies, at some of his campaign rallies and things that where he was trying to tell what he was going to do. And he couldn't even get that across because there was so much noise in the audience of things that he had said that he had made all right to say. Grab some. To you, it may not be anything. But I just thought to myself then, I said, I've never seen such as this. Something is happening. And then when I heard Margaret Taylor Greene say, we need to just divide into two countries implying that we use the red and blue states as a way to divide them. I don't know what she had in mind to do with purple states, but just divide the countries. I just want to remind Margaret Taylor Greene that her state had just gone blue. So, welcome aboard, Marjorie. Now, that's not true. I would never welcome Marjorie Taylor Greene into the Democratic Party, and she might say, I don't want to be in the Democratic Party, and that's great. I don't want to be associated with her any more than I want to be associated with Donald Trump. And then back in those days, we heard Trump speaking out about suspending the Constitution, and we just let it pass. And now when we bring these things up, it is said that didn't happen that way. You're misreading it. And so I'm asking something of you. On the People's Court years ago, Judge Millon, the Honorable Judge Millon, she had a saying, am I going to believe you or my lying eyes? And that's what I'm asking. Am I going to believe you, your kickback, your pushback, or am I going to believe my lying eyes? Trump talked about suspending the Constitution, and he talked about it in regards to if it didn't meet his need as president, he could suspend the Constitution. And now, I guess, according to what was ruled yesterday, he was right. And if you take victory in that, or joy in that, something is wrong with you. Or when Donald Trump said Putin is a good man, I've heard say, well, I don't remember him saying that. Well, am I going to believe you or am I going to believe my lying eyes? Kim Jong-un was a great leader, he's a nice man. No, he didn't say it that way. Am I going to believe you or am I going to believe my lying eyes? And then these Trump Bibles, one of the biggest disgraces that I have ever seen, come out of a former president's mouth and association. And then the boots, and then the action figures. And you're saying, well, we put these in perspective. He's a man of the people. Am I going to believe you, or am I going to believe my lying eyes? He is not a man of the people. I don't care what kind of shoes or Bibles he puts out. Donald Trump weaponized these things for his benefit. And then when you get thinking about some of the things that took place, it's like Michael Johnson, the Republican Speaker of the House, who suggests or implies that the way he got there makes him the modern day Moses. Now, as I said many times, I probably do not see the Bible, the church, Jesus, as way as you do. But if you're a Southern Baptist, you're a Methodist, Assembly of God, Church of God, Roman Catholic, whatever it is, this should be offensive to you. And yet it just passed. When the church should have been speaking out, let it pass. And then we have the before and afters. If you don't want to think about these, just remember that everybody has a past. And sometimes that past defines who they are. J.D. Vance, there is a before who wants to be the vice president so badly. When at first he could not say enough evil and bad things about Donald Trump that he was going to be the instrument that would tear this nation apart, and we could not survive his presidency. But now there's an after. He can't say enough good things about him. Is that who you want to be a vice president? A senator? Anybody in our government? And the same thing, Marco Rubio, who's another who wants to be the vice president. He said worse things about Donald Trump in the beginning. There's a great before in the life of Marco Rubio. He could not say enough bad things about Donald Trump, almost as if he was the Antichrist himself. He never said that. But the way he described him, he certainly was not the person to be leading this country. Matter of fact, he would be the person leading this country to destruction, according to Marco Rubio. That was before. Now, just like J.D. Vance, he can't say enough good things about him. Is that who we want as a vice president? Is that who we want as a senator? Do we want them sitting anywhere in our Congress running this government? And Nikki Haley, at one time, who I found favor with and had hopes that she might be the person that could bring the real Republican Party together again. But as soon as she was defeated, right back endorsing Donald Trump. Again, she could not say enough bad things about him when she was running against him for the nomination. And now she's endorsing him. Ted Cruz, before and after. Probably the smallest man I've ever known in my life is Ted Cruz. I can tell you for a fact that if I had been running against Donald Trump and he said the things about my wife that Donald Trump said about Ted Cruz's wife, and then later on I endorsed Donald Trump, when I got home that night, the door would be locked and I would not be welcome. So that doesn't say a whole lot about Ted Cruz, and I don't know what it says about his wife. Well, that was the end of the before and afters. But it's certainly not the end of all the things that we have to keep in mind as we're going forward here. How about that? It makes me sick to hear him say it, the perfect phone call to Georgia. And then, well, I was just trying to, make sure everything was on the up and up, and I was making sure that, and you're telling me, well, that's what he was doing. It was nothing wrong with it. There again, am I going to believe you? Or am I going to believe my lying eyes or my lying ears? And then the fake electoral college slates that they tried to push off. Those were offenses that should have been dealt with prison sentences. Every last person involved in that should have been put to prison. That was an attempt to overthrow an election of the United States of America, and it just passed, and you don't even hear about it anymore. They got some trials going on, but it's not big news. These are awful human beings that tried to do this thing. These are the people calling themselves Republicans. Note, I said, these are the people calling themselves Republicans. And we can't ever forget the great photo op of Donald Trump when he had to shove several people out of the way by force to stand in front of a church and hold up a Bible upside down or backwards or something. That Bible that he has plenty of in his home, and it's his favorite book. Tell me what I'm leaving out, MAGA. You know the felonious crap as well as I do. But you might be saying, I know, but I simply can't believe my lying eyes. We all better find some eye drops or salve of some kind. Otherwise, we're all going to wake up soon without a country. Strange things can happen while we're asleep, like a nightmare becoming reality. The church was weaponized, as I said, by these people who call themselves Republicans. They made it all about Republicans, the so-called Republicans. They used the church for their advantage. That is called using the Lord's name in vain. Oh, no. You're thinking, that's when you say GD. No, that's not what using the Lord's name in vain is. Using the Lord's name in vain is when you use God's name for your own selfish motives and really have nothing to do with your faith. That is using the Lord's name in vain. And that's what the people who call themselves Republicans and Donald Trump are doing every day. They weaponize the church. And I wonder every day how Southern Baptists and Methodists, Assembly of God and Church of God and Roman Catholic, and you name it, how they sit by and to a large extent empower this man who has made a mockery of God, of the church, and the Bible. And speaking of the Bible, they have weaponized the Bible. You can tell by what they say and what they do, they really do not know what their Bible, the Bible, a Bible, whatever Bible they're using, they do not know what it's saying. They cherry pick. There's a thing called eisegesis when preparing sermons or trying to teach a Sunday school lesson or a Bible lesson. Eisegesis and exegesis. Eisegesis is you have this idea that you think's great and you want to push it. And you go to the Bible and you search the Bible and you find something that backs you up, that backs up your argument without any knowledge of what the verse is actually saying, who they were saying it to, who it was written for, when it was written. It just backs up your argument. And because it's been weaponized, that Bible, you can just cherry pick it, throw it out there, and that makes it truth. And nothing could be farther from the truth. Exegesis is when somebody takes a passage of Scripture or a verse of Scripture and they try to find out who wrote it. Sometimes that's impossible. Most of the time it's impossible. They try to find out who it was written for, what the occasion was, why it was written, what language it was written in first, and what it said in the original text, and things like that, that get the real truth of why it was written. Now, the Republican, those people who call themselves Republicans, they depend a lot on the book of Leviticus, and none of them know, from what I've heard, exactly what that book of the Bible is all about. I, for one, don't have a lot of confidence in the Old Testament. I read the Old Testament. There's some good things in the Old Testament, some great stories. But the book has, as a whole, has been weaponized. And the truth of the matter is, the Bible, though I have a deep and abiding faith in God, and though I read the Bible every day, because there are things to be read in the Bible that will give us life lessons, but I find that other places too. But I'm talking about the Bible at this point. That Bible has started more wars than it ever peacefully ended because of weaponization. The Bible has divided more churches than it ever organized because it's weaponized. The Bible has caused as many arguments as it ever arbitrated. The Bible has destroyed more constitutions than it ever inspired, and the Bible is as historical as the writings of Homer, the author who wrote the Odyssey. And the Bible has more interpretations than there are languages in the world. And the Bible, and I know this offends some people, but the Bible, the Old Testament, has as much science fiction as anything penned by Isaac Asimov. As I said, the people who call themselves Republicans have weaponized practically everything they can touch. They weaponized the church. They weaponize those people who are less educated, turn them against anything that did not resemble them. They weaponize the Bible. And when they want to get a point across, they just read out a verse. Sometimes, most of the time from Leviticus. They weaponized those things that meant so much to so many people. You say that's not happening? Am I going to believe you or my lying eyes? I urge you to buy my book, The Offspring of Ignorance. It talks about this sort of thing. I wish you would get it, buy it, and I wish you would tell others about it. The Offspring of Ignorance. I want to mention my buds out there that are trying to spread the truth. And after yesterday's ruling, it has become harder and harder and more discouraging by the minute. Tennessee Brando, Wood Morgan, Texas Paul, Midas Touch Network, Ari Melber, Rachel Maddow, and Fox. You listen to them all. And ask yourself, am I going to believe all the rhetoric out there? All the hearsay? Or am I going to believe my lying eyes? If you will, subscribe to all these I've mentioned and to my podcast. Give us a thumbs up, if you will. Until the next roundup, I'll be seeing you. God bless you all.